we are on another tour of the special places for the fantasy writers of Oxford, and we're actually standing on the crossroads between ancient ways. In front of me is the Ridgeway, which runs all the way along the Downs, connecting many sites of ancient importance, crossing with another old way which goes down into the valley. Now, this way, where we're going first, is one of the oldest sites. That's Wayland Smithy, a wonderful barrow. And behind us, when we finish there, we're going to go forward in history to only 3,000 years ago to see the White Horse. But let's go back in time the furthest we can first. So, do you have to have a white horse to live around here?
You do.
Yeah, I thought so. Here we are at Wayland Smithy, which is a long barrow, about 5,500 years old, and you can see the big standing stones. These are called Saracen stones, which either mean Saracen exotic outlying stone, or just Sar stone, a ruddy great big stone in my way from the Anglo-Saxon, and I think that one's probably more likely. And here's the entrance. Inside they found 11 bodies of men, 2 of women and 1 of a child, which were covered over with an earthen mound with a sort of stone and timber superstructure. Here you can see the length of the barrow. It's marked by those stones. And at the time Tolkien was writing, a very famous barrow was found at Sutton Hoo, where the famous Anglo-Saxon helmet came from. So that one was a ship burial, wooden. This one is much more stone and earth. And this is looking all the way back down to the front of the tomb. And you can see my assistant standing there, marking just how big it is. There is some thought that these were about also marking territory, not just a burial place, but somewhere to say this land is ours. And another nice thing about Wayland Smithy are these magnificent beech trees, which are still in their winter state, and you can see how dominant this position is on top of a hill because it looks down into the valley. And over there is the town of Swindon, and if you're very sharp-eyed you can see the wind turbines. And like a good hobbit, you should always stop for a cup of tea and a bit of second breakfast when visiting a barrow. There are quite a few barrows in the writings of the Inklings. Obviously Tolkien with the barrow white, but also in Prince Caspian the stone table ends up buried in a barrow, and that's where they meet Prince Caspian. So there's lots of legends about Wayland the Smith. If you bought your horse here with a coin and left it overnight, you were supposed to find that it was shod by the time you came back. And also his swords were much sought after, and his armour. And as part of Beowulf's poem, there's an episode at the end where he talks about his armour made by Wayland the smith. And Wayland also appears in a number of other fantasy stories. One of the predecessors to Tolkien was Kipling. And in Pooks Hill, Wayland the smith and his barrow appears in the first episode. And then coming further in the 20th century, Susan Cooper in her Dark is Rising series has Wayland the smith as an important character. So he certainly gets around, does Wayland.
But if battle should claim me, send this most excellent coat of mail to Higelac, this best of corslets that protects my breast. It once belonged to Hrethel, the work of Weland. Fate goes ever as it must.
Now we're leaving Wayland Smithy and we're heading back to White Horse Hill, and the embankment on the horizon is called Uffington Castle, and this is part of a chain of hill forts that run along the downs, the kind of place you could light beacons to warn of the approach of enemies. And you can't see it from this angle, but the white horse, the famous white horse chalk figure, is in front of that. So here we are at Uffington Castle, which is they call it an old age Iron Age fort, but in fact they don't think people particularly lived up here. It might have been a gathering place. The ridgeway that we walked along is a drover's road, so you can imagine it could be a marketplace with the flocks. And if you look there, you can see there's a double ditch, which is like the main fortification. And it's a sort of a big rectangular area that is Uffington Castle. And behind me, coming back this way, is the Vale of the White Horse, which is the lowland. It's such a lovely day, there's quite a sort of haze, so you can't see it. But that way, trust me, is Oxford, and that way is Swindon, and in between is the Vale of the White Horse. And the ridgeway that we've walked along also links a town called Wantage, which was birthplace of the very famous King Alfred, who has behind him he's called Alfred the Great, so he's a bit like Aragorn in English history. He's known for reuniting everybody. And if you carry on that way for many miles, you get to a stone circle called Avebury, which perhaps Tolkien might have had in mind when he was thinking of the Pooks Hill men and their stones. So it's a really ancient landscape. And we're going to now go and see one of its most famous sites, which of course is the White Horse, which is just behind me. So the best place to see the White Horse is from across the valley, or from the air in fact. But if you see those white squiggles in front of us that look like a path, beyond that is the head of the White Horse cut into the earth. And then the flat top hill there is called Dragon Hill, where local legend said St George killed the dragon. But that's the kind of flat top hill that something like Weathertop might be based on. And the legend was you could see the blood at the flat bit at the top there. So you've got to use your imagination on that one. But the actual White Horse, in Tolkien's time, they probably associated it with the Anglo-Saxons, so we're talking about in the first millennium after Christ. But in fact it's much older than that. It's 3,000 years old, and they found that out by doing an archaeological digging through the chalk lines to see if they could find traces of any older, like snail shells and things like that they could carbon date it. And then in order to make it remain and not just go into the hillside, this means that generations upon generations of local people have been keeping it clean so that it doesn't disappear again. It was fortunate it was a horse rather than perhaps something that they could think was demonic or unpleasant. Every culture seemed to enjoy having a horse on the hillside. And the celebrations to clean it were called the scouring of the White Horse. In Victorian times, they used to come and have a big party. Now it's maintained by the National Trust, who I hope they have a party when they come and scour it. That circle there is the eye of the White Horse, And beyond it is the manger, because across the valley it looks as though it might be eating from that dip. And there's very steep sides, which the locals, the brave lads of the locals, used to run down at great risk to their life and limb. So here is the White Horse, one of the best views from close to. You can't quite see the head, but you can see the legs. And what is most amazing about this figure is it looks almost modern in its sort of gestures towards the running horse, but yet it's very ancient. And there's lots of speculation about what it meant. Was it the sign of the local tribe saying, here are the people of the White Horse? Or was it something to do with their religion? And some people say that in winter, when the sun is very low on the horizon, down in the valley it looks as though the sun is rolling along the top of the White Horse. And that fits in with mythologies where the horses pull the sun across the sky. That's a rather poetic explanation, so I think I'll go with that one. Tolkien's children remember coming here with him when they were young, and they talk about how much he loved this landscape. You can see how it would appeal to him because it's an ancient symbol on a hill. And it's not surprising when he came to thinking of a flag or a symbol for the people of the horse, the Rohan, the Rohirrim. You see, he picked a white horse on a green hill. And I can't imagine that the white horse here wasn't in his mind when he said that. And going back into real history, the people of Saxony had a white horse as their symbol too. And he may well have been aware of that because when you look at the Rohirrim, they're very much like Anglo-Saxons, but living in a kind of steppe. So they were able to, steppe as in S-T-E-P-P-E, that kind of steppe. They're able to keep lots of horses and their cavalry can sweep across vast lands. So he's mixing two ideas there, the sort of the Saxons and then perhaps more the Hungarians who lived on the steppe. And here we have a good shot of the manger, just to show you how steep it is. We're walking down beneath the White Horse now to visit Dragon Hill. And here we have Oxford's own Weathertop, a little hill jutting out from a line of hills, which gives amazing views across the valley. And here we are looking back up to the White Horse from Dragon Hill. Okay. So that's the end of our ramble from Wayland Smithy, that was 5,500 years ago, to the White Horse, which is only 3,000 years old. And it's a landscape that was loved by Tolkien and many of the other fantasy writers who have lived and worked in Oxford. And it's still as inspiring to see it today as it was then.